Black women today. 100 years of pain, suffrage, and sorrow. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It's time to honor those erased from her story. It's time to rise and take our place. In this moment, we won't be erased. Time to rise, time to rise. Stand in our power today.
Welcome to our Kitchen Table Talks, a podcast of the public engagement initiative, Unerased, Black Women Stories. I'm Gwen McKinney, creator of Unerased. This trilogy of episodes explores women owning our bodies, especially the reproductive force of our individual and collective selves, of our mothers and their mothers, and our girl children yet unborn. We take a sober and supportive look at Black women through the sacred temple that is our body and soul. The theme at this table: Fibroids, the feminine curse, period. Picture this, circa 1975, any mom and pop store in the Black community, somewhere on a top shelf in the back behind the shaving cream and shampoo, you'd find that necessary product. Always wrapped in a brown paper bag, you'd point or whisper for it. It was your time of month, and though expected, what happened lived between secret and shame, an undercover period as unmentionable as those Kotex hidden on the shelf. No one ever asked why the natural transition from girl child to woman was so cloak and dagger. We never talked about the bleeding, sometimes heavy, or the cramps, often excruciating, or the mood swings, aka PMS. Later, the plot would thicken. More blood, benign tumors, surgeries, childbearing challenges, problems with the tubes and uterus that could translate into losing your womb. Heaped atop the abnormal, we'd just suck it up and sew some threads of normal, maybe to survive or just to do what Black women have done for centuries, keep it moving. Fast forward to the 21st century. Our secret is out of the shadows, full stop, period. No more suffering in silence or alone. Our bodies are going public, sharing our stories, moving social, taking action, and demanding change.
Founder Gwen McKinney. Hi, I'm Carolyn Malachi, host of Unerased. This podcast trilogy is called Our Sacred Temple, Body and Soul. And we at Unerased are partnering with the White Dress Project. We're joined by two sister friends from the White Dress Project.
Hi, my name is Amber English Coleman, and I'm the Director of Advocacy for the White Dress Project.
Hi, I'm Tanika Gray Valbrun. I am the founder of the White Dress Project, and I'm also the Chief Patient Advocate.
They'll bring into sharp focus the theme of this episode, Fibroids, the female curse, period. Tanika, how does being the Chief Patient Advocate connect to your work at the White Dress Project?
Starting the White Dress Project and really using my own personal story as my testimony to start this organization is really walking in my purpose. I know that because of my experience with uterine fibroids, how it has impacted me physically, psychologically, socially, in my career. It is really so important for all of us to understand why we need to be our own best health advocate, why we need to share our stories, why we need to speak up and really advocate for the best physicians, the best nutritionists, the best mental health professionals. No one cares about your body and your mental state the way that you should and that you can. So as a chief patient advocate, I try to ensure that women are encouraged to do so. We haven't always been taught to do that. We've kind of been taught to do other things, take care of other people. The work that we do at the White Dress Project encourages us to ensure that we are putting ourselves first, because if we're not healthy, then no one is.
Thank you for your work. Amber, did you and Tanika know each other before you joined the organization?
No, so when I joined the White Dress Project in 2017 after my first myomectomy. I do remember when the White Dress Project was founded, because when it was founded, I lived in Atlanta and I knew that I had fibroids. But I was in the part of my journey where the doctors were telling me, if they're not bothering you, don't bother them. We're often told in this journey. And it wasn't until years later, after, feeling empowered to become my own best health advocate, that I really came to the resolution that it absolutely wasn't okay. And I needed to be involved in helping to change the story for somebody else.
And we're really zeroing in on these benign tumors that cause pain and heavy bleeding and problems during pregnancy. And it seems like so many Black women have a fibroid story. So what are your fibroid stories?
I was diagnosed with fibroids back over 10 years ago. I was 22 at the time, had my first job, and was excited to just have health insurance, and noticed that something was wrong. Yes, I'm laughing at that because I remember the joy of being like, I got my own insurance, got my own job, I'm doing it. And I remember feeling like something was wrong. When I was growing up, I was always told that I was going to have heavy periods, and that just was the way things were. But I started to notice pain and frequent urination, and I was like, something just isn't right. And what's funny is my mother, who I later found out had fibroids, told me, nothing is wrong. You just maybe you're a little constipated. Maybe you just need to change your diet up. Eat a little bit less cheese. I like cheese. I think a lot of us are told early on in our journeys that it must be something else. Either you just have heavy periods, or being misdiagnosed with another condition altogether, because, a lot of the symptoms of fibroids can also be symptoms of a lot of other things. And I actually went to a Planned Parenthood where when they did the exam, they felt fibroids, and they said, well, have you ever been told that you had uterine fibroids? And at that time, I didn't know what a fibroid was. And I certainly had never been told that I had them. They put me on the first course that a lot of people who have fibroids experience, which is, birth control to control the period. And that was supposed to solve all the problems, except it didn't. I ended up on my cycle for 3 months straight. That started my long, long journey of being told to watch and wait. Through heavy bleeding, I was chronically anemic. I was told, if they're not really bothering you, don't bother them. Painful periods every month. Take some naproxen, but if they're not bothering you, we're not really going to treat them. And it took me finally saying, I can't continue to live like this. Like I can't continue to take time off every month during my cycle. I can't continue to not want to go out places because of my cycle. And so that's when I really started to seek answers and, press my doctors a little bit more. Unfortunately, it took another trip to the ER over ovarian cysts to actually get me on the road to definitive treatment, my first surgery. My fibroids were very large. So at the time that I had my first surgery, they told me you're probably going to need an open procedure down the line, but you're so anemic that it would be dangerous for us to do an open procedure on you. So we can take out the fibroids that are inside your uterus, and we can deal with, oh, by the way, the endometriosis that has grown over this period of time. But we can't fully treat you now. And I think that was the part that made me the most angry, was how could y'all just let me get like this? I feel like I was at the doctor twice a month. And yet they let it get to the point where the only option for me was surgical. And the option that I actually needed was not available to me because I would have bled out. 2 years after I had that surgery in 2017, I did have my open procedure. I had that last year. In the middle of a pandemic, we really need some systemic change because I think 90% now is the number of Black women who will be diagnosed with fibroids before the age of 50.
Tanika, what's your fibroid story?
The work of the White Dress Project is for people like Amber and people like myself, people who took a look at their health journey and said, hello, hi, what's happening? And if someone like Amber has the resources, has the education, lives in a metropolitan city, and still has this journey, and this is a part of her narrative, then what's happening in rural communities? What's happening with people who don't have this access? We've got to take a hold of our health, and we also have to hold the people accountable who, to Amber's point, see us all the time, but what's happening? So my story is similar in some ways. I started experiencing symptoms of fibroids probably around the age of 14 or so. And I was, some people will call fortunate because my mother had fibroids. So I was familiar with what they were. But even when I began to have symptoms, my mother and I were like, oh, no way. You're too young. Like, part of the problem is that we normalize these symptoms. So we normalize the heavy period. It's just a woman's journey. We normalize the pain. Girl, everybody has cramps. We normalize the PMS. Everybody's in a bad mood around that time of the month. And doing this work, what I've learned is we can't normalize it anymore. And it was probably around the age of 19, I started to have severe anemia and went to a doctor, and he said, he just couldn't understand what was going on, why I was bleeding like this, why my levels were low. So he suggested that we do a DNC. It did not solve the problem because the problem was uterine fibroids. And I was still bleeding heavily, couldn't figure it out. And then finally, I had my first blood transfusion. And I got the whole workup for blood disorders, all the things except fibroids. And once I would get a blood transfusion, then my iron would be up, I would be feeling good, and I would just go back to life and not really concerned about whatever else is going on because clearly no one could figure it out. So fast forward to probably around the age of 25, I went to an OBGYN and she said, has anyone ever said to you that you have uterine fibroids? And I was like, what, mommy has? Like, no, why would I have that? Looking back at it, you can have the knowledge, but still be so ignorant about it happening to you. I went to a doctor and I said to him, finally, we're going to think about having children. Let me know what the plan is. And he said to me, you might as well have a hysterectomy because your uterus is so compromised. Go ahead and save your money and get a surrogate. And I was devastated. This was maybe I got married in August of 2012, and this was January of 2013. And I was devastated. And I think one of the things that devastated me is the fact that society, culture, our family tells us we're supposed to do things a certain way. So we're supposed to go to school, get a good education, get a job, then you get married, then you have kids. So when you feel like you, quote unquote, do all these things right. And that is the outcome that someone tells you when you finally decide to have children. It's extremely devastating. So a month after that, I found another doctor. She said, yes, your uterus is compromised, but let's go ahead and have the surgery. So I took a particular drug and they made my fibroids break apart, which is how the doctor explains it. And they were basically trying to pass through my birth canal. So I was having contractions with no baby, with these benign tumors that were trying to pass through my body. It was the most painful thing I have ever been through. And at that point, I had to have emergency surgery. And during that surgery, the physician removed 27 fibroids. Recovery was so difficult. And I remember not being able to walk up the stairs, not being very mobile. And when I finally got up the stairs, I walked into my closet and I realized I didn't have any white. And I always say, that may be superficial to some people, but it really just brought everything to fruition to me that I had really found so many ways to accommodate my life because of these benign tumors. So that was when the White Dress Project was born. We always say that, a white dress is not comfortable for everyone. It's not comfortable for me. It's not comfortable for Amber when she was, going through it. But it really is used as a symbol of hope that we will find a cure. We will figure out, why fibroids disproportionately happens to Black women, why they happen at all.
Are we even close to finding out why fibroids disproportionately affect Black women? And if not, how do we take that step closer?
I don't think we are, but I'm not hopeless. Right now, we are advocating for HR 2007, which is the Stephanie Tubbs Jones Uterine Fibroid Research and Education Act. And that act will give $30 million for every year for the next 5 years, which equals $150 million. And that is obviously a great start to give that funding to our government agencies, to like CDC, like NIH, like NICHD, to ensure that the research really happens around this. In the community settings that I'm in the conversations that I'm in, we're still trying to get people to understand that fibroids is not fibromyalgia. We're still trying to get people to understand that fibroids doesn't need to be linked with uterine cancer. We're still trying to get people to understand how they impact fertility and what the symptoms are.
I have hope, and it's hard for me to have the conversation about how Black women are disproportionately impacted without talking about racism. The reality is, one of the hallmarks of a lot of stories that Black women share about having fibroids is being treated differently in the medical office, right? It's being talked to disparagingly about the condition of their uterus. It is high time for us to fund research into uterine fibroids, but all the research money in the world is not going to change the way that Black women are treated in the medical system. And it spans across health conditions. We hear about maternal mortality. We hear about it in just about every area. And so when we talk about health disparities, I think it is absolutely crucial that we talk about the lack of research. But we also have to talk about the racism that exists in the medical system.
Unerased is committed to telling our story as Black women, both historically and in our contemporary lives. The White Dress Project embraces storytelling. So, Tanika, can you give us a glimpse of the kind of voices and testimonies that you're attracting?
We are really attracting just a wide variety of women who I should say people who are understanding why self-advocacy is so important. We're still in the space, I find, within our communities where we're still not comfortable talking about this publicly. And we see it across the gamut with issues below the belt. When you are willing to share with your best friend, where you're willing to share with your partner that, hey, this is why I don't want to have sex every night, because it's painful, because of the location of my fibroids. So what we're finding is that once someone shares, which is what our community and our organization has been able to do, we've encouraged that sharing, we've encouraged that storytelling. So once that happens, we see this ripple effect of others wanting to share as well. I think that our work is important because it's really showcasing how this is a people thing and not just a woman thing.
Well, thank you for playing and thank you for shooting your shot. We need you out here in the field. We really do. And thanks to the White Dress Project, July has been designated Fibroid Awareness Month. So what's planned to mark the commemoration?
So this year, our theme for Fibroid Awareness Month is We Are No Longer Silent. For the past few years, the White Dress Project has talked about breaking the walls of silence. And much like our conversation today, those walls are coming down. There's still a little silence in the community, but we're encouraged by the fact that more and more people are beginning to see the value and the power and the healing in lifting their voice. And so we've had a yoga night already. We have meditation. So events planned around wellness, right? Events planned around storytelling. We have a cinema night where we'll be debuting a documentary on uterine fibroids. We've got cooking demonstrations, again, going back to the wellness piece. Every year we do a signature event. We are a volunteer board, so we have a signature fundraiser called A Night in White, and we're virtual this year. But we're so excited because we're going to be giving a Legislative Champion Award to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who is carrying the fibroid legislation, but in memoriam to Stephanie Tubbs Jones, who is the originator of the Uterine Fibroid Research and Education Act. And so we're really excited to honor our legislative champions this year. And the final piece, we're doing a virtual advocacy day on Capitol Hill in support of HR 2007. And we're so excited to add that to our roster this year, to take our stories to Capitol Hill, because again, we know that there's individual solutions and then there are systemic solutions. And so we're going to advocate for the individual solutions and the systems change this year.
Amber did a great job of running down our calendar this year. It's on our website, thewhitedressproject.org, and you can, just see all the things that we have going on under the tab Fibroid Awareness Month. But one of the things we try to do as a board that is made up of all women who have all had some type of journey with uterine fibroids. And I point that out because it's very important for our community to know that we're not just out here thinking maybe this is what they're going through, but we have experienced it ourselves. And so when we're planning programming, like Amber talked about, cinema night and a cooking demonstration and dialogue with the doctors, those are all from the place of what would we want? How do we feel supported? What makes us feel better going through this journey? And I think as a board, we always think from that lens that how can we best support people who are going through this, who are managing life with fibroids.
Thank you, Tanika. Amber and Tanika, to close this up, Can both of you perhaps give our listeners some action items?
I'll come from two perspectives, just as a patient and as an advocate. So as a patient, I think the first step is to do your research on the providers in your area. The White Dress Project is here as a resource to help. But one thing that I wish I had learned at the beginning of my journey, that I learned kind of as I was involved with the White Dress Project, is that there are OBGYNs in the world, and there are people who specialize in and who take interest in reproductive health disorders specifically. As I think back over my journey, that's ultimately when I was treated, is when I found someone who specialized.
Thank you, Amber. Tanika.
We have to be our own best health advocate. And how do we do that? We do that by recognizing that you are the CEO of your body and that the health practitioners in your life, you can consider them your board of directors. But ultimately, you're going to be receiving this guidance from them. But ultimately, you have to make the best decisions for yourself and know what are the best outcomes that you want for yourself. So with that mindset, you go into the physician's office with more of a partnership relationship. I'm a compassionate, courteous person. But at the end of the day, if we need a second, third, fourth opinion, that's just what we have to do, sis.
My name is Taylor Alexis. I am a documentary filmmaker out of Queens, New York. This is an excerpt from the Silent Willow.
I had a fibroid tumor growing inside me about the size of a football, and I had no idea.
Fibroids are non-cancerous muscle tissue growths in a woman's uterus. Diagnosed with fibroids.
No one believes how painful this is.
They're really common, particularly in African American women.
You're dying from a period.
Fibroids.
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 Fibroids. In 2015, I was diagnosed with fibroids. I had no idea how they developed, what they were, or what was going to happen next. All I knew was that I needed to remove it immediately. Well, that's at least what my doctor told me. My surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks later, and I spent 6 weeks at home resting and questioning the women in my family. They shared that they also suffered from fibroids, but it was something that we never discussed before. Not at dinner, not over the phone, not even when it was time for me to go under the knife. But why? I wanted to know more. Studies show that Black women are 3 times more likely to develop fibroids than any other race. Although the exact cause of fibroids is unknown, there are potential factors that aid in the silent growth. My grandmother always said that any disease without a known cause is stress-related. Black women are nurturers and protesters, advocators and protectors. So why are we less vocal about this health issue? Where did the silence stem from? Was it the long history of medical experiments conducted on Black Americans? Was it from the pressure of raising a family alone because of mass incarceration? Was it the constant need to look put together from head to toe? Or was it the dismissal that emerged from the strong Black woman stereotype? Why are we only given the space to be as strong as a willow tree, but our pliable branches sway in silence?
This is our moment to tell our story, how we offered our gifts without glory, through the pain and the fears, the trial and the tears. Despite the veil, we did not fail. Unerased Black women, unerased Black women.
Thanks for listening to Kitchen Table Talks, made possible by support from Craig Newmark Philanthropies, the Park Foundation, TD Charitable Foundations, and anonymous donors. Our theme song, A Black Woman's Love Song, features Latasha Brown on vocals and Glenn Pearson on piano. Special thanks to our advocacy partner, the White Dress Project, our coordinating producer, Bria Russ, and host audio producer, Carolyn Malachi. We had help from Levi Perrin, Alyssa Davis, and Alex Kavoris. I'm Gwen McKinney, creator of Unerased, inviting you to tune in to the next episode. And while you're there, please subscribe and visit us online at srpunerased.com.